All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all glories to the assembled devotees in the Prabhupada Disciples Association who are participating in these weekly classes. This is the principle of sadhana bhakti, is to chant and hear on a regular basis the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. As members of this association, we encourage everyone to chant 16 rounds a day. This is a fundamental principle of devotional service that Prabhupada stressed amongst all of its participants. 16 rounds. In line, recordings of Prabhupada chanting, japa. So quite blissful actually to research them. There are many different formats. I personally like the japa class with the Shanai in the background. That reminded me of when I was in Mayapur in I think it was 1974, and we went every year regularly to the festival on the request of Śrīla Prabhupāda. Prabhupada wanted the devotees to come from all over the world to Sridham Mayapur and take advantage of the holy Dham. And we would go on organized programs of parikram, which was to visit all the holy places of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his birthplace, like that. The Jamuna or the Ganges River was right there. So we go bathe in the Ganges River, in the house of Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So tremendous inspiration, especially coming from where you're reading about these places, but you have no idea of what they are like. And for us, we would, when we all went, it was also amazing to get the association of so many different devotees from different quarters of the world, of the globe. So there were and then of course, the biggest thing was Prabhupada was there. Prabhupada was there with us, giving all the morning classes and also constantly meeting with the devotees who were taking leadership roles in spreading the Sankirtan mission. He was giving personal guidance. It was truly inspiring. And so one day I was noticing this Shanai being played, and it reminded me of John Coltrane. I was a professional musician in my early years, actually, and had a great love for all types of music. And one of them was modern American jazz, even though I'm from Canada. And John Coltrane played the Shanai, soprano sax. It's a thin saxophone with a very high pitch. And so the Shanai, one day I got up, I saw somebody, there was some gates at the front of the entrance to the Mayapur Dham residence of Śrīla Prabhupāda and Radha Madhava. Well, I heard this person playing this exotic instrument, and it was such a beautiful sound. It made such an amazing atmosphere in Sridham Mayapur, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Remember, just up from Mayapur, the temple they've built is the Gaudiya Math structure where the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya is. So it's just up the street. We go out and walk up and on the parikram, and you might have seen the famous picture of all the devotees back then, the dancing white elephants. You know, all of us going up the street, someone took a picture of us all having a big kirtan, and it created such a sensation back then to the people that lived there locally, to see all these people from different races and colors coming together in Sridham Mayapur to chant the holy names of the Lord. Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur, Bhaktivedanta. Yes, it was amazing. So the history of this movement is a marvelous one. Marvelous. Well, I invite everyone to continue to make a thorough study of the history. There's a lot you'll learn about. Very fascinating. And chant your rounds. Learn how to do it. How to manage your time throughout the day. If you're working, it might be difficult, but you can chant 4 rounds when you get up. You can chant 2 or 3 rounds. If you need to, you can chant in your car. If you have no time, try your best. At lunch, you can chant 2 rounds. After work, you can chant. When you come home, you can find some time to chant for a half hour. It takes about 2 hours of time out of the day to chant 16 rounds. And we follow 4 regulated principles. No intoxications, no meat eating, no gambling, and no illicit sex life. So these are the 4 regulated principles that we follow in order to elevate ourselves from the animal platform of existence. The animal platform of existence to the human platform, and then by this chanting and hearing, you develop your spiritual creeper. It's a plant, it's growing. You cultivate it that way through this process. And in this way, you can make advancement in Krishna consciousness. I'm hoping Venkat Bhatta, our regular production chief, is traveling by plane from India to Canada. We have Bhakti Hari Prasad with us. Prabhu, can you hear me okay? Bhakti Hari Prasad.
Yes, Prabhu.
I see and Venkat Bhatta's here too. Excellent. We're going to go to the reading of the original diaries of Śrīla Prabhupāda. You can barely see that, but this is at the beginning. And reading about the 26 Second Avenue history, just to give you some insight, we started at the beginning of the Jaladutta diaries. Now we're moving forward into the epilogue, just hearing about how things went on. God moved from 26 Second Avenue, and later how the devotees handled this holy place of pilgrimage. Because wherever the pure devotee went, that became sanctified. The New York devotees became excited at the prospect of regaining 26 2nd Avenue. But the art dealer did not immediately contact the owners of rescued estates. Some 9 months later, the owners of rescued estates called the New York Temple. So you can see the pictures there of rescued estates. At first, the owner of the building was not enthusiastic to rent the storefront to the devotees, but one of the partners from rescued estates persuaded him to allow ISKCON to take over their lease. So this is later. This had become a antique store. It was in April. Excuse me. It was in April 1991 that the 22nd 2nd Avenue was secured. Years of neglect and left the storefront in poor condition. The floor had big holes and pits. The plaster was coming off the walls and the bricks showed through sheets of tin hung down from the pressed tin ceiling. Boards were screwed up to the ceilings and wires hung down everywhere. The devotees raised $20,000 in donations to renovate the storefront. A grand opening was scheduled for July 11th. A devotee who was a professional carpenter was contracted to complete the renovation within 2 months. The devotee team pulled out the warped floorboards and laid a polished wood floor. They replaced the crumbling plaster walls with smooth sheetrock, built a drop ceiling, ripped out the tangled wiring, and installed a new electrical system. Italian lighting fixtures were substituted for the bare light bulbs. They renewed the bathroom wall at the rear of the storefront and arranged a new sink and toilet, torn out the rear windows of the temple room, constructed new ones, and set up a new conditioner. Okay, so they're doing some basic renovation in a small space. I'm just reading this for the first time myself, this particular section, so it's just some insight on the history after Prabhupada's departure. The construction actively caused passersby to stop and peer inside. More than once, the workers stopped their work to answer inquiries. Who bought this place? The Krishnas are back, far out. The grand opening was on July 11th, 1991, because it marked the 25th anniversary of the incorporation of ISKCON, which had taken place at 26 2nd Avenue. You can see the picture there. Above, 26 years after it closed in the 60s, devotees re-entered the storefront for the grand opening celebration. Below right, the regular Harinam party gathers outside the storefront. So, get some idea of what they're doing. Some interest there. But nonetheless, we carry on with the Sankirtan mission, trying to rebuild the philosophical truth behind Prabhupada's efforts to bring Krishna consciousness in a bona fide method to all of the people that are interested seriously in spiritual life. And that's what this class is. And I believe that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu, is Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu capable of coming online for the class this morning? You know? Hari Prasad, is Yaśodā-nandana with us?
Yes, Prabhu, he's there.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. So we'll move forward and have the morning Bhagavatam program, here, reading and chanting. And we'll begin with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, the bhajan that Prabhupada chanted at the beginning of all his classes. So chant along with him. I believe the words will become the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, reading and discussion. Prabhu. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Back to home, back to Godhead.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yaśodā-nandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I do offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskrityam. Narayanam namaskrityam. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Tato jayam mudirayat. Tato jayam mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today we've had an electrical lightning and electrical shut off here in the mountains, in the forest. So I'm in a vehicle here trying to, somewhere or other, able to get reception. But inside the house, we do not have electricity. So kindly forgive me for the lack of proper situation. As usual, we will read a few texts from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam before the beginning of the reading and discussion. This is explaining the exalted position and the benefit of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 16. Shushrushoho Shraddadanasyam Vasudeva Kataruchihi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat. O the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done. And as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Text 17. Shrinvatam swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaham Ridyantasto Yabadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire from material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu babhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Text 19. Tadarajastamo bhavaham kamalo bhadayaschaye chetayetera viddham stitvam setve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in a mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataham bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in a mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man, affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord, can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So again, I welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today we will be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 3, texts number 27 and 28. Actually, this text number 28 in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is extremely important for all the followers of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because this is the fundamental text of our philosophy, the text of Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam. So we'll be reading these two texts. Rishayo manavo deva manuputra mahojasaha kalam sarve hare riva saprajapatayaha smritaha. Rishayo, all the sages. Manavo, all the manus. Deva, all the demigods. Manuputra, all the descendants of Manu. Mahojasaha, very powerful. Kalam, portion of the plenary portion. Sarave, all collectively. Hare, of the Lord. Eva, certainly. Saprajapataya, along with Prajapati. Smritaha, are known. Translation by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda. All the rishis, manus, demigods, descendants of Manu, who are specially powerful, are plenary portions or portion of the plenary portion of the Lord. This includes all the Prajapatis also. Important to note, I forgot to mention, all the translations, word for word and purports, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness movement. Purport. Those who are comparatively less powerful are called vibhuti, and those who are comparatively more powerful are called avesha incarnations. text number 28. Iti cham sakalapum saha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete, all these, cha, and, amsha, plenary portion, kalaha, portion of the plenary portion, Krishna, Lord Krishna, to, but, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Swayam, in person, Indrari, the enemies of Indra, Vyakulam, disturbed, Lokam, all the planets, Mridyanti, gives protection, Mridayanti, gives protection, Yuge, Yuge, in different ages. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portion or portion of the plenary portion of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna, as above mentioned, is the original personality of Godhead, and all of them advent themselves in all the planets whenever there is disturbances by the atheist, and the Lord incarnates to protect the theist. Purport. In this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. The avatar means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend on different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life, to fulfill particular mission only. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes is different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, or is differentiated portions directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend on this material world to execute certain specific function. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fames, all beauties, all knowledge, and all renunciations. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions at that time, it should be noted that such manifestation of his different prowess is required for that particular function. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by such powers of the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to roll on large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed in that particular time. For example, Lord Parashurama and Lord Nrsimha displayed unusual opulence by killing the disobedient Kshatriyas for 21 times and killing the great powerful atheist Hiranyakashipu respectively. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that even the demigods in other planets would tremble simply by the unfavorable display of his eyebrow. The demigods in the higher level of material existence are many, many times well placed than the most well-to-do human beings in his respect of duration of life, beauty, wealth, paraphernalia, and in all other respects. Still, they were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Thus, we can simply imagine how much powerful was Hiranyakashipu in this material world. But even such powerful Hiranyakashipu was also pierced into small pieces by the nails of Lord Narasimha. This means that anyone materially powerful cannot even stand the strength of the Lord's nails. Similarly, Jamadagnya displayed his power to kill all the disobedient kings powerfully situated in their respective states. His empowered incarnation, Narada, and plenary incarnation, Varaha, as well as indirectly empowered Lord Buddha, manifested his feature of creating fate in the mass of people. The incarnation of Rama, Dhanvantari, manifested the feature of his fame. Balaram, Mohini, and Vamana exhibited the feature of his beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, and Kapila manifested the feature of his transcendental knowledge. Narayana Rishis manifested the feature of his renunciation. So all the different incarnations of the Lord, indirectly or directly powerful, manifested different features. But Lord Krishna, the primeval Lord, exhibited the complete features of Godhead, and thus it was confirmed that he is the source of all other incarnations. And the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Lord Sri Krishna was his internal energetic manifestations of his pastimes with coward girls. His pastime with the gopis are all display of the transcendental existence, bliss, and knowledge, although it was manifested apparently in way of sex love. The specific attraction of his pastimes with gopis is never to be misunderstood. The Bhagavat is described about these transcendental pastimes in the 10th canto. And in order to reach to that position, to understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, the Bhagavat has tried to promote the student gradually in 9 other cantos continually. According to Śrīla Jiva Goswami's statement, which he has dealt with in terms of authoritative sources, Lord Krishna is the source of all other incarnation, and it is not that Lord Krishna has any other source of being incarnated. All the symptoms of the supreme truth in full are present in the person of Lord Sri Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord emphatically declares that there is no greater and equal truth than himself. In this stanza, the word Swayam is particularly mentioned to confirm it, that Lord Krishna has no other source than himself. Although in other places, the incarnations are described as Bhagavan because of the incarnation's specific function, still nowhere it has been declared that he is the Supreme Lord Personality. In this stanza, the word Swayam signifies the supremacy as the summum bonum. The summum bonum Krishna is one without a second, and he himself has expended himself in various parts, portion, and particles as Swayam Rupa, Swayam Prakasha, Tadikatma, Prabhava, Vaibhava, Vilasa, Avatara, Avesha, Jivas, all provided with innumerable energies just suitable to the respective persons and personalities. Learned scholars in the matter of transcendental subject has carefully analyzed the summum bonum Krishna with 64 attributes. And all the expansions of categories of the Lord possess only some percentages of the complete attributes. Sri Krishna is the possessor of the attributes 100%. And his personal expansions, such as Swayam Prakash, Tadekatma, up to the categories of the avatars, or all Vishnu Tattva, possess up to 93% of such transcendental attributes. Lord Shiva, who is neither avatara nor avesha, nor in between them, possesses almost 84% of the attributes. But the jivas, or the individual living beings in different status of life, possesses up to the limit of 78% of the attributes. In the conditioned state of material existence, the living being possesses all these 78% of the attributes in very minute quantity, varying in terms of the pious life of the living being. The most perfect of the living being is Brahma, the supreme administrator in one universe. He possesses 78% of the attributes in full. All other demigods have the same attribute in less quantity, while the human being possesses the attributes in very minute quantity. The standard of perfection for a human being is to develop the attributes up to 78% in full. The living being can never reach to the standard of possessing attributes like Shiva, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. A living being, he can become a Brahma. A living being can become godly by developing the 78% of transcendental attributes in fullness, but he can never become a god like Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna. He can become a Brahma in due course. The godly living being, or all residents of the planets in the spiritual sky, are eternal associates of God in different spiritual planets, called by the name of Haridama and Maheshadama. The abode of Lord Krishna on the top of all spiritual planets is called Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavana. And the perfected living beings, by developing 78% of the above attributes in fullness, can enter even into the planet of Krishna Loka after leaving the present material body. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with a torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana-strinam danteridam yachi punaha punaha Śrīmad-Rūpa padam bhoja dhulisyam janma janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very important text of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In the opinion of Jiva Goswami, one of the foremost acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, he has described in his book called the Krishna Sandarbha a complete analysis of this particular verse and answered all objections of various others, commentators and critics. The reason that Jiva Goswami and our Śrīla Prabhupada has presented Krishna as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead is simple. It is based on this particular verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Now, in this purport, Śrīla Prabhupada mentions in one place here, all the symptoms of the Supreme Truth in full are present in the person of Lord Sri Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord emphatically declares that there is no other greater and equal truth than himself. What Śrīla Prabhupada is referring here is Lord Krishna's statement in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavad Gita in chapter 7, text 7, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvam idam protam sutre maniganaiva. There is no truth superior to me. Everything is resting upon me like pearls strewn upon a thread. Sometimes you see the ladies, they will wear strings of pearls or a string of pearl, but those pearls are not independent. They're dependent upon the thread that is strewn in the middle of then it holds together like a beautiful strand. Similarly, everything in the material world and spiritual world is resting, depending upon Lord Krishna. And Krishna says, Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. O Arjuna, Dhananjaya, let it be known that there is no higher truth than me. Now, this is a very important point because one disciple of Śrīla Prabhupada named Kushakrata translated the whole Krishna Sandarbha. If somebody is really interested in reading the whole thing, you can download it from the internet. You can go on Google and put the word Krishna Sandarbha, and you'll be able to obtain or download the book. But the point that Śrīla Prabhupada is making here is that Lord Krishna is the original personality, and according to the analysis of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, in this book, there is a book they wrote called Lagu Bhagavatamrita. This particular book, Bhagavatam, also by Rupa Goswami, is a systematic and all the incarnations, culminating in the explanation of how Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Because there are other sampradayas, specifically in South India, the Madhva and Sri Vaishnava, who say that Narayana is the origin and Krishna is just an incarnation. It's interesting that in the Krishna Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami says that all of these statements are actually correct, but there has to be a very clear differentiation between the different position of the avatars. Now, our Śrīla Prabhupada many times would quote from the Brahma Samhita, where in the 5th chapter it is described, Ramadi Murtishu Kalaniyamina Tishtan, Nanavataram Akarad Bhuvaneshu Kintu, Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumanyo, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Now, what this text is basically saying is that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the different avatars come from him. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text number 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate, that everything emanates from Krishna. So this is very important point, because this differentiates the Sampradaya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Gaudiya Sampradaya, from various other Sampradayas. Now, there are other Sampradayas in North India, the Nimbarka Sampradaya and the Vallabha Sampradaya, the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. They also accept that Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. But the other two Sampradayas in South India, they're claiming that Lord Narayana, Lord Vishnu, is the original personality. And one time we went to Śrīla Prabhupāda, Guru Kripa Swami and myself, and related the discussion we had with a Swami in Udupi. And Prabhupada, when he heard that, basically he quoted a verse from the Brahma Samhita, Diparchireva hi dasantarumabhupetyam, that it is just like a candle. If you have a candle that is lit and you lit other candles, all of the candles have the same power, but still there is one original candle. But Prabhupada said, in this case, it is better not to engage in too much argumentation, because they are from our sampradaya, they are our respectful elders, and basically the best way to answer these differences is to say, well, according to the statements of Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and our Vaishnavacharyas, Gaudiyacharyas, such as Baladev Vidyabhushana, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this is the conclusion they reach, and we just follow that. That was a very graceful and very gracious way of avoiding controversy. But basically, anybody who is reasonably familiar with Śrīla Prabhupāda's presentation of Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings can understand this point. If somebody wants to go into further details, what is funny is last night I was doing some research on the computer in the Prabhupada folio, and unfortunately the electricity went off, but I was compiling a list of various statements and explanations from Śrīla Prabhupada based on this same verse, Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna Swayam Bhagavan. And Śrīla Prabhupada was describing and quoting so many times this exact same verse and explaining it from so many beautiful angles, so many very deep explanations. It's just a very, very special time that we're in, that although, because, for example, we were discussing this last couple of days on Lord Krishna's appearance and Prabhupada's birthday, that we don't video of Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti explaining this verse. We have their Sanskrit text, but what Śrīla Prabhupada, what's unique is this particular point in time, people were able to record him, recording his conversations, recording his lectures, and put this in various formats that now we can actually see Śrīla Prabhupada and experience directly Śrīla Prabhupada explaining Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. It's quite amazing. It is Krishna's arrangement. It is definitely Krishna's arrangement. We all know how in the Bhagavad Gita, Śrīla Prabhupada explains that not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme. Why did Śrīla Prabhupada, this great personality, come at that specific period of time, in that specific environment in New York, in that specific social condition, and some way or other was able to spread this movement like wildfire all over the world? Why, for one thing, we do know that he was predicted, that Śrīla Prabhupada was predicted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He fulfilled that prediction. He actually fulfilled the prediction of Lord Chaitanya that his name would be sung in every farm, every village around the world, everywhere. And the Krishna Consciousness movement is basically the manifestation of Lord Krishna's mercy and Lord Chaitanya's mercy through his pure devotee, Śrīla Prabhupada. Now, this is a very important point. Because there's a misunderstood class of uneducated devotees or uninformed devotees. The Prabhupada was a great devotee, was a great guru who came at the right place at the right time, some kind of sadhana siddha who became perfect, who became liberated. No, this is the incorrect understanding. The correct understanding is that His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda was a Nitya Siddha, an eternally liberated soul who came from Goloka Vrindavan, sent by Krishna himself, sent by Lord Chaitanya himself to come and bring this Krishna consciousness movement. We do know from the writings of Narottam Das Thakur, one of the great acharyas in our sampradaya, that he has described Golokera Premadana Harinama Samkirtana, that this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, this comes from the spiritual world, from Goloka Vrindavan. But who's going to bring it here? We know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is there in the Vedas, in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. But who's going to propagate it? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago in India in 1486 AD, and he went all over South India, all over North India, and propagated the chanting. He inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. And the followers of Lord Chaitanya, the six Goswamis, the Panchatattva, all these followers of Lord called Gaudiyas, they have spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But in due course of time, the actual original pure disciplic succession was lost. And that's why Bhaktivedanta Thakur came to revive it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave it a very big push by founding the Gaudiya Math, and Śrīla Prabhupada took it to another level all over the world. That requires special empowerments. Only a Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated soul, Shakya Visha avatar, an especially empowered living being can do that. So this is the unique, special position of Śrīla Prabhupada. There are many references in Śrīla Prabhupada books where he explains this point very nicely. How Lord Krishna, it's mentioned in the Upanishad in one of his purports, that the Lord sends some of his confidential servants to reestablish the principles of Dharma, the principles of religion. So this is very special, just like last Friday, we observed the appearance day celebration of Śrīla Prabhupada. We were in Sacramento with Bhaktaran, and we had a very nice festival. It was very, very, very ecstatic, and several devotees came. And it was quite significant to see the intensity and the very, very sincere devotion of some of these participants, some of which have never physically met Śrīla Prabhupada. They never went on morning walks with Śrīla Prabhupada. They never went and attended conversation with Śrīla Prabhupada in his room. Like a few of us had that chance we had the unique opportunity and privilege to be physically with Śrīla Prabhupada. But these devotees who, although they never were with Śrīla Prabhupada, the level of dedication, the level of focus on Śrīla Prabhupada and his mission and his teachings was just amazing, surprising, amazing. It was very enlivening, very enlivening. I know that there are many people on this call, like yesterday I was mentioning how the parents of Ram Raghava Prabhu, Dr. Ram Raghava in Georgia, how his father, Viprahita, a very dedicated person, very dedicated souls who follow Prabhupada's teachings, Prabhupada's instructions very strictly, his mother also, and a very, very deep understanding, very deep realization of Prabhupada's mission. This is the absolute same amazing experience I experienced this last few days by going there with the kirtans, the discussion, the readings, and seeing the depth, the sincerity, the devotion of these devotees was It was just very, very enlivening and amazing. And I'm very grateful to Bhaktaran and his mother, who spent the weekend cooking, chanting, dancing. Both of his parents were there. It was like very, very revealing how Śrīla Prabhupāda's mercy is available to any sincere aspirant. My good old friend Hamsadura Prabhu, Hamsadura Maharaj, used to say that nobody has the right to set up a toll gate between any aspirant disciple and Śrīla Prabhupada. Prabhupada is available to anybody through his teachings and his books. We see in the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, if somebody wants to understand the message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Śrīla Prabhupada's teachings, the first thing they have to do, the first thing they have to understand is Śrīla Prabhupada's statement right in the beginning. And every one of you knows this on this call. When Prabhupada writes in the introduction, the dedication, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. This is very, very deep statement by Śrīla Prabhupada. Very deep statement, just like Bhaktivedanta Thakur in 1914 in Jagannath Puri, he placed a plaque near the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur that he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die. These kind of statements, we have to meditate upon these statements and understand the deep meaning of the association with the pure devotee Śrīla Prabhupada, through his Vani incarnation, his transcendental, non-adulterated books, not these revised, adulterated books, the non-adulterated original first edition books. Anyone can obtain those, read these books, follow the instructions, chant Hare Krishna, offer your foodstuff to Krishna, offer your bhoga to Śrīla Prabhupada and Krishna as recommended by Śrīla Prabhupada, and engage in associating with devotees. And this is the whole purpose of this Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society, to give ourselves a chance to associate respectfully and hear attentively from Śrīla Prabhupada. Thank you all very much for attending these sessions of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is real life of associating with Lord Krishna's pure devotee, Śrīla Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Thank you for that brilliant explanation of today's verses. And it is important to note that a true speaker of the Bhagavatam uses a variety of quotes and references from the Shastra to establish the credibility of the points that they're making. Just like in law, if you practice law, you have to refer to the law books and use those as references for determining the validity of your argument to win over the court and the judge. So like that, in the same way, be mindful of this, everyone. We have to refer to the law books of mankind in the form of Śrīla Prabhupada, for all of us, in the form of his transcendental literatures. And this is the order that was given to us by him. And Yaśodā represents that order very nicely, is to thoroughly study my books. Not whimsically study the books, thoroughly study the books, so that you're expert in understanding this philosophy, which is a science. It's like going to the, I mentioned yesterday, I had to go for 5 cancer operations recently. Now, the surgeon that performed the operations on me was a great scholar of the medical field, Dr. Masumoto in Hamilton, Canada. And he reassured myself and another colleague of mine who also had to go for an operation that he wouldn't make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, it's fatal. It's not a whimsical, it's fatal. So like that, when people take up Krishna consciousness, I was thinking while you were speaking, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, how glorious this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that we're reading from is for all of us. I know when I first joined the mission back in 1970, we only had that version, the 1962 and 64 versions of the Bhagavatam. But you can see the wealth of information, Prabhus, in the books, like this purport today. Now, put this in context. Prabhupada wrote these before he came to America. Was Prabhupada trying to become a pure devotee before he arrived in New York City in 1965? No. Yet people that joined the mission who knew nothing, absolutely nothing. If you read about the history, and we've been studying it in our classes here, I've been reading at the beginning of the classes. For those that don't make it, you can go back and review this information on the Krishna Conscious Movement YouTube channel. We have over 150 classes that you can use as a reference. But the fact of the matter is that back then, Prabhupada was presenting this philosophy to people that knew nothing, like Keith Ham and people like that. Yet somehow or other, within a few years, they became these big scholars. What a farce. Be humble and understand the context of how this movement spread by the mercy of Śrīla Prabhupāda, and how revealing his writings are for everyone for the next 10,000 years. Not some writings of some person, some American that gets involved in the mission and all of a sudden they become expert. Oh, I'll rewrite these books. I'll change them. I'll fix them. This is absolutely pathetic. Of course, that's called the change business. People are very expert at doing that because they want to promote themselves. Oh, look at what a great scholar I am. So this has to be avoided. That's why, for all of us in this group, we stress the Vani incarnation of Śrīla Prabhupāda. We have these classes, of course, that people can attend. But at the same time, there's unlimited information, especially in this day and age. By the grace of Krishna, we have this facility on the internet to go daily and hear a Bhagavatam class or a Bhagavad Gita class directly from Śrīla Prabhupada and see his brilliance, his amazing brilliance. And this purport today was another manifestation of that brilliance. If you read it carefully, it reveals his depth, tremendous depth. And this is a great gift, everyone. An absolute gift to all of us. Because without any difficulty, we can contact a truly enlightened, pure devotee of Krishna through these mediums. and this spiritual world. Just like Prabhupada explained to us when he saw the paintings that were being done in the early 60s by the devotees. He told us these are windows into the spiritual world, windows to see what the future will hold for all of us if we take to this process of Krishna consciousness with great determination and precision. So we want to encourage everyone to carry on with these classes. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who's speaking from Iskar today, everyone, as you can see. And thank you very much for Prabhu for being so determined not to miss a class. We've been conducting these classes steadily the last year close to. And by Krishna's mercy and Prabhupada's blessings, we're able to carry on without interference despite the difficulties. Yaśodā-nandana, if you could please continue with a few comments.
Recently, one devotee asked me, why do you and Vishwakarma call these classes readings and discussion? Well, all of us who were there present during the manifested presence of His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda, we knew that during that time, Prabhupada gave regular classes on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita every day. And he wanted his disciples to learn to present the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So he trained the devotees in the beginning how to give class. He wanted devotees to do it in a very systematic way, to present. And discussion. What happened basically is that after Śrīla Prabhupada departed, the Bhagavatam class, or the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, became a platform for various political discourse, for various political indoctrinations, and many different ideologies were being presented in the name of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. But the problem is, every disciple of Śrīla Prabhupada knew that Prabhupada had said that you should discuss things from every angle of vision. But that, after Prabhupada departed, was not allowed. There was only one angle of vision, the new regime, the political regime that came there in 1978 with this bogus, nonsensical idea that they had been appointed as Prabhupada's successor, the pure devotees, the Uttamadhikaris. And then the problem is, where's the opportunity for discussion? As a matter of fact, when I was in Vrindavan in the Gurukul, one of these original 11 told the Gurukul teacher, there is nothing to discuss. We have already discussed everything. We have already decided everything. There is nothing to discuss. They should all simply accept. This was the new style of so-called Bhagavatam class. This is not what we do here. We don't mind discussing, even though the period of time is short for a full-fledged Ishtagoshti type. We don't mind dealing with any issue. That's why we call it a reading and discussion. So technically, it's still a class, yes, but we like the reading and discussion. If anybody has comments or questions, just like last night, I had a conversation here with a devotee from Tokyo. He's an Indian devotee who basically is working in an IT department in Tokyo, and he lives with some devotees in Tokyo. And he was asking me what they should do. I said, well, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, discuss Bhagavatam. But the issue came up, well, he says, we have to be very careful what we discuss, because if you discuss some things that the management doesn't like, they yank you out, they kick you out. So we don't need this kind of political shenanigans in our discussion, in our association. We don't allow that. That is very important. That is extremely important. There is no need for political behavior, nonsensical accusations, nonsensical distortions and fabrications. There's no need of that. Very important. One thing I wanted to address also, before I read from one of Prabhupada's purports on the same text, there's a devotee who has come to these classes for the last few times, a Vaishnavi lady named Srimati Rupa Manjari. Now, she's written and compiled a lot of very important articles about the structure of the management of Śrīla Prabhupāda Society as desired by Śrīla Prabhupada. She's done tremendous service. This is available on a website called iscontruth.com. If anybody wants the link, I can send it to you. You can always contact Vishwakarma, myself, or Venkat Prabhu. My email address is yasoda1008@yahoo.com, yasoda1008@yahoo.com, and we will provide you the link. It's a tremendous amount of information about the direction of management, all the different legal documents that Śrīla Prabhupada set up, the whole structure of everything that Prabhupada wanted with the BBT, everything that Śrīla Prabhupada desired for the smooth functioning of his mission, because it's important for devotees to understand what Śrīla Prabhupada wanted, both for our individual lives, wherever we are, and how he wanted his society to be conducted. I'm going to read a few paragraphs from a lecture in Los Angeles on October 3rd, 1972, dealing with the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam text, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. Prajumna. Iti cham sakalaha pumsaha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Translation. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on different planets whenever and when there is a disturbance created by the atheist. The Lord incarnates to protect the theist. Prabhupada. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya dlanir bhavati bharata vyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So everything is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this material world is also the property of Krishna, because here the people do not care for Krishna. That does not mean that it is not the property of Krishna. Just like in the prison, within the prison walls, the prisoners, they say, we don't care for the government. They say like that. But it does not mean that the prison house does not belong to the government. It is government property. But these rascals are being forced to live in a prison house. And still they say, we don't care for the government. This is rascaldom. You are under my control. And as soon as you are in wrong, I am kicking you on your face. Still, if you say, I don't care for you, you can say that. But there is force that you say, don't care. But I force you, you have to care. This is material world. They are saying, don't. There is no God. We don't care for God. We are everyone God, but Maya, the police force, is there, kicking on the face. And they're subjected to so many tribulations, miserable conditions of life, especially birth, death, old age, and disease. Now you don't care for God. So why don't you stop your death? You stop your death. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mrityuhu sarvaharashchaham. To the rascals and the demons, I am that. I take away everything. Sarvaharaha. Sarvaharaha means these rascals are trying to possess so many things. Cars, motor cars, skyscraper buildings, bank balance, big family, big friends, big empire, and so many things. But when death comes, he cannot protect himself. What to speak of protecting other things, you see. So he's under full control, the demons, and every moment he's under control. Suppose I've got money, I can eat so much. But as soon as you eat a little more, immediately you are under control. You cannot eat for 3 days. Indigestion immediately. And still the rascal says that I'm not control. If there's a little pain here, immediately becomes, where is doctor? Where is doctor? Where is doctor? And still he says, I'm not control and I'm God. He does not know what is the meaning of God. God is never controlled by anyone. That is God. That is the definition of God. If you are God, then why are you being controlled? Because they're rascals, demons, foolishly speaking something nonsense. But we should know that God means controller. He's not controlled. But when God was present on this planet, he showed what kind of God he is. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam. Anyone, any demon who tries to imitate God, they were all killed, all killed. Therefore, the Kamsa, his only policy was to kill Krishna. As soon as Krishna comes, kill him. So many plans he made. He, Krishna, happened to be his sister's son. So he imprisoned the sister and brother-in-law so that he may beget children. But in my front I must remain. As soon as child is born, I shall kill. So this is the policy of the demons. Therefore, Indrari Vyakulam Lokam, when people become the inhabitants of all different planets, they become very much perturbed on account of these demonic. In this Kali Yuga especially, the demons are so large in number that people are actually in harassment. Every year they are presenting taxation bill. And where from the taxation will come? The taxation will come from your pocket and my pocket. They will charge income tax. And the storekeepers will increase the value of commodity. So you have to pay. So we are complaining. Oh, the things are going high price. But why? Because the demons are levying taxes. It is not the scarcity of goods. There is sufficient commodity, sufficient. But they have made an economic plan, just like in your country. The government said that you don't produce more. Why? If one can produce, Krishna has given food. You have to simply work and produce your food. But in order to keep the balance of price, they say, don't produce. Why not produce? So many people are. Actually, if we produce foodstuff in the ordinary way, then we can produce foodstuff so much that 10 times of the whole population of the world can be fed. 10 times. There is no question of scarcity of poverty. There is no question. We create. These demons, these create. They create. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank
Oh,
you very much.
To Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. Well, I see that the clock has come to the end of our program, and we want to thank you all for participating and remind you that we will be having a reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We started right from the beginning, Prabhus, of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in detail have read every single word. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is so diligent in this work that we're doing that every single word, every transliteration, every purport has been carefully reviewed by him for us. And we'll be carrying on with that reading on Wednesday and discussion at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. So, and we're also releasing our Vyas Puja book. Our production manager, Vinkat Bhatta, right now is coming to Canada and America. So our production is being handled by Bhakti Hari Prasad. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for stepping in and assisting us in this. If any of you are participating with us in the variety of programs that we're doing, please be in touch. If you need the information, you can get in touch with Vinkat Prabhu, how to reach us. And in this way, we can work as a team to continue this mission of saving the legacy of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Hari Prasad, please bring forward the kirtan from 1966, I believe, to finalize.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Kripa
Sindubhya
Sindhu
eva cha
Evacha
Patitanam
Tanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namah.